Do nothing and get everything. It sounds like a paradox to the logical mind, but it is the truth of spiritual law. You've been taught that effort brings reward, that toil brings fruit, that the harder you push, the more you get. But in the spiritual realm, the opposite is often true. When you align with the infinite within you, when you rest in the assumption that your desire is already yours, when you sleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, then you do nothing and everything is done for you. The secret lies not in force, but in faith, not in striving, but in stillness. You must learn to be still and know that you are God, not a God apart, but the very creative power of the universe individualized in you. Your imagination is the creator, and sleep is the sacred temple where imagination takes root. Night after night, you are given the opportunity to reshape your world, not through action, but through assumption. And assumption, when persisted in, hardens into fact. Let me tell you, there is no power outside of consciousness. Nothing acts independently of the state of mind in which you dwell. If your life appears chaotic, it is because your inner conversations are disordered. If your world is full of lack, it is because your internal state is one of need and not fulfillment. Change your inner world and your outer world will follow. The law is always working, whether you believe in it or not. The law does not respond to effort, it responds to belief, to feeling, to assumption, and the most powerful way to change your assumption is through sleep. When you lay your body down to rest, the conscious mind surrenders its grip. The gatekeeper stands aside, and the subconscious, that fertile field of infinite power, becomes receptive to your seeds. Whatever impression you give it at that moment before sleep, it will take and multiply. That impression will become the pattern of your waking world. This is not fantasy, this is law. You have heard it said, as within, so without. That is not poetry, it is principle. The world is yourself pushed out. It is your mirror. And just as you do not change your reflection by scolding the mirror, you do not change your life by struggling with circumstances, you change your reflection by changing your expression. You change your world by changing your assumption. And the most effective time to do this is in that golden moment between wakefulness and sleep. Do nothing and yet receive everything. Why? Because the doing is not done by your hands, but by your mind. When you go to sleep feeling rich, even if your bank account is empty, the subconscious accepts that feeling as truth. It does not argue. It does not reason. It simply accepts and expresses. If you feel wealthy, you will become wealthy. If you feel loved, you will attract love. If you feel healthy, your body will begin to conform. The law knows no exceptions. It is impersonal, precise, and perfect. You must learn to fall asleep in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. That is the entire secret. Feel it real. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. As you lay in your bed tonight, do not think of the things you lack. Do not rehearse your fears. Do not replay the day's failures. Instead, construct a scene, just a simple scene, that would imply your desire is already a fact. Make it vivid, make it real, make it now. And repeat it in your mind until it lulls you into sleep. Let sleep overtake you, while the scene still lives in your imagination. That is the moment of conception. You do not need to work harder. You do not need to manipulate people or conditions. You do not need to beg, plead, or hustle. You need only to assume. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and sleep. That is the holy act of creation. The whole vast world is yourself pushed out, and it bends to your inner state like a shadow bends to the body. The external is always subordinate to the internal, and the internal can be shaped in the silence of your own mind. You have within you the power to call forth anything, but that power does not respond to effort, it responds to belief. It responds to stillness, it responds to the imaginal act performed in faith. When you are anxious, you block the flow. When you are desperate, you repel what you desire. But when you are calm, confident, and at rest, when you feel it real and release it to the subconscious with trust, then all things begin to rearrange themselves to reflect that inner state. Let me remind you again, you do nothing, and yet everything is done. This is not passivity. It is spiritual activity of the highest order. You are not lazy, you are faithful, you are not idle, you are intentional, you are assuming the state and allowing the universe to reflect it. That is the art of creation. That is the power that moves mountains. You were told, when you pray, believe that you have received it, and you will. Do you see the formula? Not believe that you might receive. Not believe that you'll someday get it. But believe that you have received. It is already done. And from that knowing, from that internal certainty, you fall asleep. Not hoping, but knowing. Not wanting, but having. That is the secret. That is the divine sleep meditation. The ancients called it entering the Sabbath. The Sabbath is not a day, it is a state. It is the rest that comes after creation. It is the feeling of completion. When you enter the Sabbath, you cease all mental effort. You cease all mental argument. You rest, not because you are tired, but because you know it is done. And you allow that knowing to carry you into sleep. That is when the seed is sown. That is when the magic begins. Do not underestimate the power of this practice. I have seen lives change overnight through this single act. I have seen debts vanish, relationships restored, bodies healed, all by the power of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled and sleeping in that state. It is not theory, it is experience. The moment you dare to assume, you begin to move mountains. And yet you do nothing. There is no need to force anything. The assumption, once accepted by the subconscious, will find expression. It will do all the work. It will orchestrate the right meetings, the perfect opportunities, the unforeseen windfalls. It will bring people and places and events together in the most mysterious ways. You need not know how. You need only to feel it real. Many of you try to figure it out. You worry about the details. You want to control the unfolding, but that is not your job. Your job is to define the end and rest in it. To dwell in the state until it feels like home. To sleep in the knowing that what you have imagined is already yours. That is all. The how is not your concern. The law will take care of the how. Your work is in the assumption. Night after night, practice this. Let your last thoughts before sleep be thoughts of fulfillment. Let your final emotion be one of gratitude. Not for what is coming, but for what already is. Let that be your signal to the subconscious, and do not be fooled by appearances. The world may look unchanged, but know this, once impressed, the subconscious must express. The world must conform. You may feel like nothing is happening, but I tell you, everything is happening. Beneath the surface, the seed is germinating. The tree does not sprout the moment the seed is planted, but the seed is alive, and in due time it will push through the soil and bear fruit. Your assumption is the seed. Your faith is the water. Your rest is the sunlight. And sleep is the sacred ground. Many will hear these words and dismiss them. They will say, it cannot be this simple. But truth is always simple. The greatest truths are not complicated. They are clear and direct. Assume, sleep, receive. That is the formula. That is the divine triad. That is the path to effortless manifestation. You must become as a child. Children do not doubt. They believe, they pretend. They feel real. They imagine and then act as though it were true. And what does Scripture say? Unless you become as little children, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom is your fulfilled desire. And the way to enter it is through belief, through imagination, through restful assumption. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, ask yourself, what would I feel if I already had it? How would I breathe, move, think? And then feel that. Feel it not just as a thought, but as a mood. Let that mood be the pillow on which you rest your head. Let that feeling carry you into the depths of slumber. And trust that the law is working. You are not here to struggle. You are here to create. You are not here to chase. You are here to attract. You are not here to beg. You are here to command. But that command is silent. It is internal. It is imaginative. That is the great mystery. That is the quiet power. And it is available to you now. When you finally understand that you are the operant power, that nothing happens to you but through you, then you will stop trying and start assuming. You will stop worrying and start imagining. You will stop begging and start believing. And in that state of belief, you will rest. And in that rest, you will receive. So I say to you again, do nothing and get everything. Not because you are idle, but because you are aligned. Not because you are passive, but because you are present. The universe responds not to effort, but to energy. And the energy of assumption, held in faith, released in sleep, is the most creative force in existence. The world you see is the echo of what you feel. Change your feeling, and you change the echo. Tonight, as you lay your head to sleep, feel it real. Become the version of you who already has it. Dwell in that state, and sleep, because in that sacred sleep, your entire world will begin to change. Feel it with every fiber of your being, not as a fleeting thought, not as a mere wish, but as an emotional certainty that runs deep into your bones. Let your body relax under the weight of fulfilled desire. Let your heart beat with the rhythm of accomplishment. Let your breath match the peace of someone who already has everything they've asked for. This is not pretending. This is creating. The moment you feel it real, the universe begins to respond. You are not asking the world for permission. You are declaring your reality to consciousness itself. The great secret is that you are not separate from the thing you desire. You are it. You are already one with it in imagination. And imagination is the only reality. The things you see with your eyes are only shadows of that inner state. You don't wait for things to change. You change within, and the outer rearranges automatically. You are the cause, not the effect. And sleep is the bridge between what is imagined and what is manifested. If you understood just how powerful your sleep is, you would never again go to bed with thoughts of doubt or fear. You would never again entertain limitation in that sacred moment before unconsciousness. Because it is in that moment, in that space between waking and dreaming, that you pass the seed into the soil of your subconscious. And the subconscious never forgets. It never fails. It always brings forth what is planted. There is no greater technique than this. Lie down and assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Nothing more is required. No effort. No striving. Only a quiet confidence that what you feel now is what will become. When you relax into the scene, when you let go of needing to know how or when, you open the door, and all things begin to flow to you, not by effort, but by the law. This law is impersonal. It does not favor one person over another. It does not require struggle, status, or sacrifice. It requires only belief. It requires only a disciplined imagination. A willingness to persist in the assumption, night after night, regardless of what the senses report. Do not be swayed by what you see. Let your inner world be more real to you than anything on the outside. Because the outer world is always a reflection, it is the mirror, not the source. If you find yourself doubting, gently return to the feeling, that's all. You are not failing. You are simply learning. This is the art of conscious creation. You assume, you feel, and you rest. It is not your job to force it into being. It is your job to believe. And belief is a quiet power, most potent when the body is still and the mind is focused. Do not let your imagination wander into fear. Discipline it gently. Turn your mind again and again to the scene that implies your desire is already yours. And soon it will no longer feel like imagination. It will feel like memory. When it feels natural, when it feels familiar, it is ready to be expressed. And sleep is the doorway. So what will you imagine tonight? What dream will you let your subconscious incubate while you do nothing? Will you replay the old story, the struggle, the lack, the loneliness, or will you write a new script? Will you imagine yourself celebrated, wealthy, healthy, joyful? Will you rest in the knowing that the universe rearranges itself to reflect your inner state? You cannot serve two masters. You cannot go to sleep in fear and expect to wake in joy. You cannot rehearse failure and expect success. You must be bold enough to assume what your senses deny. You must be faithful enough to feel it as real before it becomes fact. That is the secret. That is the magic. That is the path of least resistance and the gateway to miracles. Do not underestimate the momentum that builds when you repeat this night after night. The first time you may feel resistance. The second night you may feel doubt. But continue. Persist, Fall asleep again and again in the assumption of your fulfilled desire, and eventually it will no longer feel like a performance. It will feel like your truth. And the world must respond. Because the world is your mirror. There is nothing more sacred than this moment before sleep. It is your meeting place with God. It is where you drop the masks of the day and return to your creative power. It is where your imagination speaks the word, and the word becomes flesh. This is not mythology. This is metaphysics. The law is exact, and your role is simple. Assume, feel, sleep. If you want to change your life, change the way you sleep. Do not let the day drag into the night. Let the night be a new beginning. Let sleep be a rehearsal for the life you want to live. Make your bed a temple. Let your pillow be the throne of fulfilled desire. Close your eyes not in escape, but in creation. Let your dreams be seeds, not distractions. Because in that stillness, in that surrender, all things are made new. You do not need to know how the world will change. You do not need to make it happen. You only need to go to sleep with a new vision, a new feeling, a new inner state, and the rest will unfold in ways you could never predict. The subconscious has means you know not of. It can open doors where there were only walls. It can part the sea of circumstance, but only when you trust it, only when you feel the end. What would it feel like to be the person who already has the life you want? That is the question. Ask it every night, and let the answer be your lullaby. Let the feeling of that answer be the last thing you carry into your sleep. Because that feeling is a command. That assumption is a decree. And your subconscious is always listening. You must begin to take your inner world seriously. More seriously than anything on the outside. Because the inner creates the outer. There is no exception. What you feel dominantly, you live. What you imagine persistently, you become. It is not up to someone else. It is not dependent on time or effort. It is all within you now. The beauty of it all is that you do not have to fight for it. You do not have to beg. You do not have to struggle. You only need to rest. Not rest in defeat, but rest in victory. Not sleep in confusion, but sleep in clarity. You fall asleep in the answer, and the question disappears. You fall asleep in the feeling, and the fact appears. So tonight, and every night, do this one thing. Choose your desire, assume it is done, feel it with conviction, and surrender it to sleep. Let go of the need to make it happen. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the how. Simply fall asleep knowing that what you imagined has already begun. That your desire is already moving toward you. Not by force, but by faith. Not through action but through alignment. You see, there is a divine intelligence that takes over the moment you relinquish control. The moment you stop trying to make it happen, and instead accept that it is already done in consciousness. You activate the greater power within. This power does not require you to sweat, struggle, or sacrifice. It only requires your willingness to surrender to the unseen, to live from the unseen, and to believe in the unseen more than you believe in what you currently see. When you go to sleep tonight, do not review your problems. Do not replay your frustrations. That is how you fertilize the weeds. Instead, plant the seed of your ideal reality. See it, feel it, own it. The mind may wander, and that is natural. But bring it back gently, lovingly. Focus again on the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Not the image alone, but the emotion it brings. The relief, the gratitude, the peace. Let that be your resting place. The deeper you go into sleep, the more permeable the boundary between conscious and subconscious becomes. In that in-between, you are both the dreamer and the creator. You hold the brush and the canvas. Do not squander that moment painting old pictures. Create new ones, and believe in them more than you believe in the day's limitations. Because the subconscious, once impressed, must express. That is its law. It does not argue, it does not judge, it simply accepts and delivers. Think of it like this. Your imagination is the blueprint. Your feeling is the energy, and sleep is the cement that fixes the pattern into the foundation of your being. Whatever is fixed there must come to pass. So tonight, before you close your eyes, ask yourself, what do I want to be true? And when the answer comes, don't think about it. Feel it. Become it in mind. Live it in heart. Let that assumption wrap you like a blanket. and let sleep seal it in. Do not be concerned if things do not change immediately. That is not your role. Time is simply the delay between assumption and realization. But the assumption must come first. Persist in it. Let each night be a rehearsal of your new reality. And soon the lines between dream and waking life will blur. You will wake up into your assumption. You will step into your imagined life. Not because you worked harder, but because you surrendered more deeply. This is not about passivity. This is about mastery. This is not laziness. This is alignment. To do nothing and get everything means you have mastered the art of inner causation. You have stopped reacting and started creating. You no longer live by what the world shows you. You show the world what to reflect by how you feel and think within. You become untouchable, unshakable, because your reality no longer depends on appearances. It flows from conviction. The conviction that your imagination is the only true reality. And when you carry that conviction into sleep, you change the very trajectory of your life. You tap into the power that created the universe. The same power that shapes galaxies responds to your assumptions. That is how powerful you are. You were never meant to force your life into shape. You were meant to imagine it into being. Every desire you have is a seed planted by God. And your imagination is the water. Your feeling is the sunlight. Your sleep is the soil. Do not doubt the process. Tend to your garden with faith, and in due season you will harvest all that you have planted. Not by striving, but by resting. Not by chasing, but by assuming and receiving. Let go of the idea that hard work is the only path. Let go of the belief that success must come through struggle. Those are old stories, old assumptions, and as long as you believe them, they will continue to be true for you. But you can change them tonight. You can rewrite the script. You can fall asleep in the knowing that life is easy, that blessings flow to you, that you are worthy of abundance. And if you persist, that will become your new truth. Understand this. What you assume in the stillness of sleep is more powerful than what you declare in the noise of the day. Your conscious affirmations are only effective if they match your inner feeling. You can say, "I am rich" all day long. But if you feel lack at night, you are impressing lack upon the subconscious. So focus on the feeling. Let it be real. Let it be natural. That is the true prayer. The prayer of feeling. The silent assumption. The effortless faith. What happens next is not your concern. That's the beauty of this. You do not need to be the builder. You are the architect. The builder is your subconscious mind. And it never fails. It brings forth what it is fed. So give it the best nourishment. Give it visions of joy, of abundance, of love. And then step back. Relax. Let the process unfold. Do not interfere with doubt. Do not dig up the seed to see if it's growing. Trust the unseen. You are not waiting for a miracle. You are becoming one. Each night as you fall asleep in the assumption of your fulfilled desire, you are creating new patterns of thought, new neural pathways, new energetic signatures. And those patterns draw experiences to you like a magnet. That's the real law of attraction. It's not your desire that attracts. It's your state of being. And your state is shaped most powerfully in sleep. So take this seriously. Make it your nightly ritual. Turn off the noise. Dim the lights. Lay down not as a victim of circumstance, but as a master of creation. Choose your scene. Enter it. Feel it. Fall asleep inside it. And let the universe do the rest. Let the law work for you while you rest in its promise. You are not alone in this. The entire cosmos moves to fulfill your assumption once it is felt as real. You do not need permission to live the life you dream of. You only need to accept it as yours. Now, in imagination, before the world says yes, you must say yes within. And sleep is the perfect time to do it. When resistance is low, when the conscious mind is quiet, when the soul is open. That's when the miracles are planted. That's when destinies are rewritten. And so let it be easy. Let it be light. Let it be joyful. You do not have to carry the world on your shoulders. You only need to carry the feeling of your fulfilled desire into the stillness of sleep. That is your sacred task. That is your divine responsibility. And the reward is beyond anything the world can offer. It is peace. It is power.
It is the effortless unfolding of everything you have ever desired. So tonight, as you lay your head to rest, remember this simple but eternal truth. You do not need to chase, beg, or force your dreams into being. You are the dreamer. And dreaming creates reality. What you accept as true in the silence of sleep becomes fact in the light of day. This is not fantasy. It is law. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. And trust the unseen power that responds with mathematical certainty. Let go of the how, let go of the when, and simply fall asleep in the knowing that it is done. For he who can feel it real in the stillness of the night, will awaken to its manifestation in the brilliance of the day. Do nothing, and receive everything, because you dared to believe.